I like to think I know how Ryan's Earth Shadow works. The hammer comes down, I get annihilated, and if I survived, it usually wasn't for very long. And even though I know how the ability works, Shatter can be pretty unpredictable at times. And recently I experienced this where I was playing Sigma and Orion on Circuit Royale, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to block a Shatter. So I stood on top of the payload to avoid it, and you could probably see where I'm going with this. It didn't work out. But I thought to myself in that moment, would that have worked with a different payload? So we're going to look into that and maybe find out which payload does the worst against Earth Shatter. So we're on the same page. Earth Shatter is an ultimate with a cone-shaped area of effect that moves along the ground. In other words, it doesn't require line of sight, and it also has the ability to step up or down varying heights. So it doesn't get blocked by small objects or shifts in level geometry. Overwatch characters also do this, where they'll step onto small objects so you don't get stuck on everything in the environment. But the step height for Shatter is much larger, which allows Shatter to reach places that it normally wouldn't be able to get to. So if we look at this clip from earlier with all that in mind, we can kind of see how Shatter was easily able to step out the slope of the car and hit Zen. I've only showed you this one clip, so here's a clear example. Alright, can I ask you a question? How many payloads do you think there are? 7? 8? No? There's 16. 16 unique payloads in Overwatch, and it's currently split with 8 Escort and 8 Hybrid, if you were wondering. And for each of these 16 payloads, I tested a point at the front and back from several different angles. Kiriko was my volunteer, but I made sure to set her damage received to 10% so she didn't have any serious injuries.
Get a load of this.
This is the part of the video where I'd show you the data and we'd all go, wow, see-through, that's really interesting. But I quickly realized during testing that the payloads themselves didn't offer any consistent defense against Earth Shatter. Like for the payload on Hollywood, we'd both see this and go, yeah, that looks fine. Then there's Havana, where I don't know how this is a legal Shatter. Don't worry, we'll come back to this. There are some weird spots like the front of Shambali's payload, but it's clear Shatter doesn't apply the same logic to the payload as it does other level geometry. Shatter travels along the ground, and if you're within its vertical range, you're gonna get knocked down. The question is now, does Shatter really go that high? Well, not really. If Illari is flying within 1.75 meters from the ground, she can still be shattered. And here, Illari is 2 meters off the ground and is still noticeably lower than Kiriko, but Kiriko still gets shattered and Illari doesn't. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. I could speculate, but we'll leave it at that. So from what I found, the worst payload is literally all of them. And after all that, here's a couple of tips for not getting shattered. If you're high up on the cart, you want to aim down to block the line of sight from the ground. But if you're lower, you can block the shatter normally, which will also block it for any teammates behind you. That's it for me. I'm See-Through, aka the one and only Play the Game Machine. Feel free to press any of those buttons down below, and I'll see you around.